Welcome everyone to the Island Life Podcast, where we journey onto the island of discovery to relive some of the best and worst moments of Survivor. My name is Will, an experienced Survivor fan, 49 seasons deep, and I will be your guide. And joining us on this two-person adventure is our Survivor newbie, the brand new Survivor fan who just finished his 8th season of the show. I give you Survivor F.
That's right. Howdy, folks.
Yes, welcome from the future, by the way, because listeners have been listening to our steady stream of season 46 episodes, and for you a week has passed, but for us like 2 months have passed since last we spoke about this, so just
much less a year has passed too, crossing years. Happy New Year's, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year, which just different schedules contribute to this, but made the finale no less exciting, I think. So how do you feel the end of this chaotic season? What we've been talking a lot about is the just madness of what's happened and the decision making the whole season long. But given how the season had gotten to this point, do you think the finale itself was just as chaotic, or did we have a more coherent ending to everything?
I did feel like we had a more coherent ending. It did soften me up in my stance, which was more negative about the season. It's still not one of my top seasons, but I do appreciate it a little bit more after watching the whole thing through. I feel like, at a glance, honestly, this might have been the most wholesome, like, final three / like jury connection that we've seen. We've had other finishes where things felt good, but it really felt like the people who made it to the end were here for each other in a way that I didn't really feel in other Survivor seasons.
Which I do argue may not have been to the best interests of the people in the final three.
No, obviously
but I do agree in general. Yeah, I do agree in general. It is an interesting dynamic as the viewer then, especially depending on who you specifically were rooting for or rooting against. Like, I could definitely see a lot of people rooting against Liz, so her being taken out might have been like a cheering moment potentially. Though there may people who liked her, and so we're sad. Do you feel like, or I guess I remember at the time for me, one point of a disappointment was I wasn't, none of the final three's strategic games jumped out at me, and none of the
Yep.
and then extending one backwards, like Liz didn't add to that. One before that, Maria's did, although she had like some misfires too, but at least like she had been driving some of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Before that was Q, who was just chaotic and so on. So um I did find that lacking, but out of
Yes.
everyone, so think about final five, so the finale. Did it feel like someone stood above the rest as a deserving winner? Or was it just hard to parse that out?
Quite honestly, no. If I was forced to choose, it felt like Charlie was in a pretty good position towards the end. It just, and that's me having to think about everything and try to nitpick things. I would say for this season of Survivor, it became less of where's the strategic edge? How are we kind of building off of any certain strategy? It felt like for a lot of the season that kind of just went out the window. A lot of missed opportunities, a lot of things where people would have still been in the game had they used whatever advantages they had. it just became, for me, more of a season of like a storyline. What storyline are we building for each contestant? And obviously that happens in every season, but it felt like strategy was not really in the forefront this season compared to other seasons that we've watched. And I think that's part of the reason why I have not viewed it as highly as some of the other seasons where, sure, we could have some good storylines. Kenzie's storyline, I think, struck out to me in the sense that she was part of a failing tribe from the get-go, had to work on building relationships with everyone, including a lot of the people who were still remaining. Most specifically, her connection to Ben having written her name down for a vote, which she did, which still doesn't make too much sense if you ask anyone, but I digress. She didn't really take that the wrong way. She didn't let that affect her mentally. Obviously, if you're her, that might be pretty frustrating because it may have you wondering, okay, is he out to get me, or is he trying to turn a vote against me? Am I in trouble right now? She was able to stay strong. She was able to, from a position of weakness, turn it into more of a position of stability and eventually into a position of power with the relationships and bonds that she built. And again, going back to Ben, despite what he did being a negative for her, despite the panic attacks he would have at night, she became his sole form of support. She helped him all throughout. And I thought that was just a beautiful moment. We saw that up until the very end. We saw that these people got together and were able to set aside their differences and just have a human moment with each other in that, oh, I know you're hurting and I'm here for you. I'm not even looking at this in the sense that I'm trying to win the game. Like, yes, that's important, but I'm not losing my focus on you as a person that I should have some level of compassion for.
Yeah, I think that everyone but Liz of the final 5, if any of them had won, on paper, like, you could root for them. It's like, oh yes, like, obviously, like Ken, we would hear more of Kenzie's story, but even, well, you're right.
Agreed.
In the game, she was usually always there for somebody. She's part of whatever's going on, and then outside the game, it's just a story you can root for and starting her own business and wanting to focus on herself. So that feels good. Similar for Charlie too. In the game, he's with his own allies. He was always there. He's not the one that betrayed his ally first, because Maria actually betrays him first. So that more looks like self-defense. Yes. And he's starting his career, everything. He's just a weird something, a Swiftie on the show. You don't usually see that. So that would have good. Ben, sweetheart from the beginning. Just rocking out, not making enemies. Took a stand against Q, and I think we all agreed with that.
Indeed.
And Maria, who's like they're there to prove to her kids to never give up and keep going and everything, and trying to redefine the mom role in Survivor. All of those on paper, you're like, I can get behind that win. So I definitely agree with that.
Yes.
The other part is always like, you do look for the compelling, like, what did you do in the game to deserve the win? And that did feel lacking.
Absolutely. And I think, again, going back to your point about Liz, I agree with that. I feel like with the others, there could be a story that's made. With Liz, it feels like she wasn't selling her own story properly. She made it abundantly clear that, like, it didn't matter if she won the money. Like, the money wouldn't really change her life like it would for the others. Like, she already had some money. Like, and she's not one of the only contestants. I'm sure there's contestants in the past that come from wealth where if they win it, like, they're probably just playing for the enjoyment of the game or to build a legacy. But it's nice to see someone who needs that money actually win that money. So for me, like, the storylines are set up better for the others, as you had mentioned, compared to Liz. And again, it's like there were so many chances for better strategy and decision making throughout the season, and it's easy for me to say this just as a viewer from the outside looking in, but I felt like I wasn't scrutinizing the other seasons to the extent that I've been scrutinizing this season. So I feel like part of it has been valid in the sense that because of how much chaos there has been, it's nice to see it for like an episode or two just to make things unpredictable. But if large portions of your season have this element of unpredictability, it just like we need to do a better job of organizing and keep things contained and try to actually build something rather than create all this havoc just to see if it creates some entertainment value, because sometimes it doesn't stick the landing. And I felt like in some episodes it didn't, but this again, I will say that I did soften up on the season towards the end. I felt like I liked seeing everyone kind of get together and have those sorts of interactions. Like I got to see Maria go up and talk to Charlie and try to explain her votes, and Charlie, while he understood that, you know, like he took it like a man. Like he didn't like he didn't break down or anything, or he didn't panic, or he wasn't overly concerned. He himself admitted, you know, to the cameras that, like, you know, it put me in a good position. Like, I understand why she voted for me. I very much probably would have voted for her as well. So he came from he came from a point of understanding as opposed to just scrutinizing her for the sake of scrutinizing. So I think the one thing I liked that I saw was this felt like a pretty compassionate end to the season, unlike some other seasons where there's moments of people being cutthroat or trying to one up each other. It didn't come across as that to end the season, which is a nice change of pace. And I know that's not what the competition is supposed to be about, but it's nice to see that Survivor is capable of showing that.
You just want a mix of everything. Like obviously, like
Yeah,
if you put this against every other season, then I think I would feel like this leans too far that way. But a season that leans too far the other way is going to be like emotionless game bots is also not going to be good. So you want
right.
the mix. And as for Charlie, credit also not being so emotional to let himself be like, you know what? I love Maria. Actually, I'm not going to vote for her. I'm not going to vote her out. I'm going to vote out like Liz or Kenzie instead. And then because if it seems that if Maria were to have made it to the end, then she would have beaten everyone potentially.
Most likely, yeah.
So, uh, but don't burn bridges. So like I think that's just don't, because you never know. Like things could have gone differently. Like if Maria had won the final 5 immunity challenge, then it could have been Charlie as the biggest target, but since he didn't burn the bridge of Maria, maybe Maria would have chosen to target someone else, which, by the way, uh, she doesn't even vote for Charlie. She actually votes for Ben. So maybe that is because Charlie actually talked to her nicely. I mean, who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Um, but we'll start at final tribal and then work our way through the final 5 and final 4.
Sounds good.
So the final tribal, our final 3 was Ben, Charlie, and Kenzie. Which kind of a wild, like if you think about us like at the merge to now, it's just like a wild combination of people. Um,
Yeah, not the three I would
before
expect.
Yeah, before they gave any opening statements or questions were asked, and then the conversation were had, were you leaning a certain way? Not necessarily a prediction, but just like who you felt had earned a win compared to their 2 peers.
Charlie, I think at the start of the final tribal, I felt out of anyone, like it's a toss up between Kenzie and Charlie, but I would have given Charlie the edge.
Totally agree. I felt Ben was drawing dead. I didn't think there was anything he could have done to win at that point, and then that means it's Kenzie or Charlie, and I felt that Charlie was involved in most of the strategy of the the full of his game, because like he and Maria go way back even to the beginning on the original Sega, and him deciding to be with Charlie's Angels and then eventually siding against the other 2 girls, Jem and Mariah. Yes. Um
Yep, probably right.
so all so to me, I just knew more about me. But asterisk, Kenzie's handicap is her beginning of the game. She was stuck with Banu, so she had to deal with everything he was doing. But even with that, I also was citing Charlie at the beginning. And then we get
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and for me personally, it's interesting how that kind of shifted. I've not had a season where I'm thinking that, oh, this one person's going to win. And then over the course of the jury vote, my opinion really just changes to someone else completely different. I think that's another kind of thing that this season did where it felt like, and part of it, to be fair, is because it felt like it would be a toss up. But I felt like the person I'm giving the edge, I'm saying Charlie right now, and then the person who, after they gave their entire speech, answered all the jury questions. You asked me that same question, who's going to win the game? My answer would be Kenzie. So like she swayed me. Like if I was a jury member, like she did a good enough job, which changed my opinion of who I would have been voting for.
Which question do you think did the most for her, like to help her gain votes? Or I guess which answer of hers do you think?
I don't recall the specific questions. I just know that over the course of most of her answers, she did a really good job of describing that, hey, I had to deal with these hardships, these handicaps, and on top of that, I had to deal with whatever Q was doing and all the confusion that came with Q, which, I mean, is a fact. She wasn't she even had I think Tiff vouching for her. That was a really strong point for her, that Q is such a person who creates all this chaos, and I had to navigate around the chaos and work towards not only avoiding being caught up in that chaos myself, but helping get him eliminated. I think she sold that story the best. Like the other two were not really capable of making the same point that she did there. And that just solidified her for me, on top of the fact that, just thinking back to her background, she started off in the most unstable footing of the three and managed to stay afloat.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I mean, some of the answers, like you were saying, there was the question about like a strategic move you made, where she called out voting out Tim, I believe, which was near the beginning of the merge. There was the controversial, what are you going to do with the money question from Q?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she kind of tells her life story and running a hair salon business and wanting to now focus on herself and start a family.
I like
There
that
was
answer. Felt genuine.
It definitely felt genuine. I'll put a pin in that. And then there's also the what you would have done if, would you have put yourself in fire making? But for her, I forget they asked because she just was put in fire making. I think they did ask her though, and she said
Mm-hmm.
that she would
I
put
think she
herself.
said she would.
Yeah, which I forget I guess you haven't seen that happen yet. But as the person who wins Final Four immunity, you are allowed to do that if you wanted to. So like Ben
Right.
could have said, Liz is going to be in fire and I'm putting myself to face her. He could have done that. It's actually a weird mechanic. I'm not a fan for it for a couple reasons, but the point is that is a choice you could make as the person who won immunity.
Mm-hmm.
I think
I
people seem
actually,
to like that.
I honestly, I myself do like that, because I feel like I've said this before, because it's been brought up in the past, but I feel like it's an added layer of strategy you can throw into the mix that would probably catch a lot of people by surprise. So Ben did win this final challenge. He had the opportunity, and let's say Ben's biggest threat going into the final four at the time, he saw the biggest threat in, let's say, Charlie. He felt like there was a lot of overlap with Charlie, and he felt that, okay, like he's got a tough hill to climb to catch votes that the other two might catch, like Liz and Kenzie, but he's most scared about dealing with Charlie because whatever votes would go to him would probably be leached by Charlie in his mind. What are you going to do in that case? The best way to flip things around and potentially even earn you additional votes is eliminate the threat yourself. Remove yourself from a position of safety where you have a guaranteed spot in the finish, and personally make sure that the biggest threat to your game is eliminated by something that you did at the end of the game. Like, if I see someone do that, hey, that earns brownie points. I respect that. You're taking on a risk that some people might not have the balls to do.
I don't disagree with that part of it. It's frustrating that over the length of the show where forced fire making has existed, sometimes it's an expectation that you should do that from the jury, and then when you don't do it, it heavily counts against you. It did feel like there
Oh,
was a
that's
little
lame.
bit, maybe more than a little bit of that happening here, to be honest. But
I actually missed that. Yeah.
like Charlie answered no, and he's kind of saying like, I thought my game stood on its own without needing to do that, and the jury didn't react as well to that answer as they did to Kenzie's answer of saying she would put herself in fire, and that sucks. Like that, like it shouldn't count against me to not
it
do
shouldn't
it.
penalize you. Right. I agree with
Yeah,
that.
at least if you know you have a competent game. Now you point out Ben, so for him, honestly, I think it does make sense to count against him, because if it's obvious that you are not in a position to win, then you should be making decisions to help you have a chance to win. And so in that case,
Right.
it's either risk it all in fire making or go in as a zero vote finalist, which is what happened, by the way. Now, granted, that looks better if like you have a reputation of being a good fire maker, because otherwise, because if you are, it's like, ooh, and he took matters to his own hands. He knew he could do it, took the risk. If you don't have the reputation, it's kind of just like, well, he was going to lose anyway, so he just gave it a shot. So maybe if Ben had done that, it wouldn't really have helped him at all, even if he won that. But I have a couple problems with Ben. We'll get to him shortly. But yeah, I think there's a lot of different different things that came up at Final Tribal that it looked a little bit better for Kenzie than it did for Charlie. Although after the show, or not the after show, Jeff asks how many people had their mind changed during Tribal Council, which by the way is rare. Most people, despite what they would have you believe, or most jurors, because remember, the jurors, they're just hanging out Ponderosa, so they're like exchanging ideas, even if they're instructed not to. They have a pretty strong idea of who they want to vote for coming into it. So I think it does take a lot to change someone's mind. But 3 people, specifically Hunter, Liz, and Soda, they all say that they were gonna vote for, well, I guess they don't say who, but I'm gonna assume they were gonna vote for Kenzie, but based on Charlie's answers, they changed their mind and voted for Charlie. And then Q and Maria, they give reasons why they weren't gonna vote for Kenzie, but based on her answers, they changed it to Kenzie. So that's more than half the people changing their mind at Tribal. If they're telling the truth, I mean, they could. I mean, I can't know that they're telling the truth, but if they are,
Right.
that's pretty rare. Q explained that it was the answer to his question, which was like, what you're gonna do with the money, basically, that meant the most to him and why he voted for Kenzie. And Maria was a little bit more vague, but she kind of said like just like the fire in the eyes of Kenzie, the way she both answered questions and her during fire making convinced her. And this is contentious too. A lot of people were surprised, even hurt, because people get like emotional, like rooting for whoever they're rooting for. That she didn't vote for her number one ally, Charlie, and we're not satisfied with her explanation. So yeah, Maria
Right.
got a lot of hate actually after this. this happened.
That's unfortunate. I
E-
feel like
even not hate from Charlie, but Charlie he looked surprised and hurt that he didn't get Maria's vote, especially because then it would have been a tie at
cost
that
him $1
point.
million.
Yeah, because then it would have been a 4-4 tie. In the event of a tie, the third place person, which is Ben, would vote, and then it all comes down to would Ben pick Kenzie or Ben pick Charlie?
He likely would have voted Charlie. Yeah.
Like, would he remember to write the right person's name again? Would he accidentally write Kenzie?
Kenzie again? Oh my God! Imagine. Could you imagine? Like, that'd be so funny. It's like comes back full circle. He's like, oh, I wrote her name down mistake. Her name is just ingrained in my mind. So whenever I see paper, I got to write it down. Like, I actually meant to write Charlie, but I wrote Kenzie. And they have this entire spiel with Jeff saying like, oh, Jeff, can I actually I actually meant Charlie. And Jeff's like, nope, too late. You already wrote Kenzie. Kenzie's win. But yeah,
oh my God.
Honestly, like, I was very impressed because I was able to self-reflect towards the end about everything that Kenzie had accomplished. And that's why, like, despite Charlie himself in his own right being he would have been a rightful winner too, I do feel like Kenzie, like, it went to the most deserving winner. I feel like you cannot understate how difficult it is to work with someone like Q, in that, like, imagine you're starting a tribe with someone who's telling you one thing and then their plan changes the very next minute, and half the time they're not even communicating it to you. That would get extremely frustrating. So with Kenzie, I saw someone who throughout the course of the season, she's not like dominating in challenges. She's losing a lot of challenges. She's going into a lot of tribals. She hadn't lost her composure at any point in the season, which was extremely impressive. On top of the fact that she herself is probably having issues sleeping, trying to calm Ben down, right? Like, she's taking her own time, expending more of her own energy, sacrificing some of her own sleep to make sure he's okay. He then also comes back and writes her name down. And again, she stays composed the whole time. That does not break her composure. I was very impressed by that.
Another case of not burning bridges, right? Like, that could cause a chain reaction where suddenly things turn against you, especially with a group that's, I think, prioritizing, I don't know, like, not exactly deservedness, but just like morality clause, who should be here. So if Kenzie had kind of blown up at Ben, maybe Ben thinks differently, and then he's like, actually, I'd rather have Maria and Liz here than you, Kenzie. So now you're the target or something. Well, I guess it wouldn't. She did win that immunity challenge. That wouldn't have happened. But,
well, even then, like, we saw, like, this was probably one of the hardest decisions that I've seen someone make for who to send to fire. You could really see Ben having a hard time processing, should I send Kenzie or should I send Charlie? Ultimately, he does decide to send Charlie, or he does decide to take Charlie with him, sending Kenzie to fire making. And this is probably the biggest reaction we get all season from Kenzie, where she rolls her eyes. Like, she is disappointed by that outcome, but, like, I think in a sense she gets it. It's like, it becomes a 50-50 at that point, that, like, it's either going to be me or Charlie. And I mean, he obviously has an advantage of starting in the same tribe with him, and they've clicked right away due to their tastes in music.
Now, in reality, it's time to talk about Ben. Ben. Now, I admit, like, by the time you get to that point, it probably all is lost. Like we said, maybe the only chance is put himself in fire.
So what you're saying is Ben drowned, huh?
Ben drowned.
For those that get that reference.
Yeah. I think you stumped your co-host here.
Okay, some other Ben. I'll explain it.
Ben really should have put Kenzie and Charlie against each other. The only reason to put Liz is if you're buying her own hype that she was going to beat them all. Which, by the way, she goes home 100% confident that she was the best player in the game and going to win the game.
Yeah,
maybe
sure,
still believes that to this day. So yeah, unless you're buying her hype, not a threat. So take Liz, and then guarantee that a big threat is leaving. Because instead, what happens is Liz goes, now you have to defeat two bigger threats than you at Final Tribal, and it's basically hopeless at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're speaking strategically the more sound decision here. Unfortunately, as much as I like Ben, as much as he's a feel-good pick, he did not play a very strategic game. He played a much more emotional game. And that will always cost you, right? Like it's you got to be smart with how you're maneuvering around the game. It's just there were a lot of things that were lacking even as we got towards the end. You know, you're hoping that he has something to start to build on. And it's not like he was completely useless over the course of the season. Like he didn't just get dragged to the end. Like, you know, he's built good relationships. And I would like to think that, yes, if Charlie did not make it to the end, and let's say it was like Kenzie, Liz, and Ben would probably have at least earned one vote. We wouldn't have been a 0-vote finalist. In fact, he might even be able to sneak in like another vote or two. Like he'd probably be in second place. I still see Kenzie winning that, but I feel like Ben would have more votes than Liz.
I think that's fair. Because I think Ken's what helps Kenzie versus Charlie is, although both of them I think have solid social games, it seemed like Kenzie had a superior social game. So Ben also seemed to have a good social game, so that probably does earn him some votes. But Ben's issue is that although he did make good allies and friends genuinely, he never actually like used that social capital. So while I think I
Yes.
agree by technicality not dragged, but he had agency and never actually used that agency in the end. So like until finally, like the very last moment he did, but that's because when you win Final Four immunity, you have to make a decision. Otherwise, he did tend to just agree with what Maria and Charlie wanted to do. And sometimes other people, like when we were targeting Q. And I do think if you had voiced a different opinion, Charlie and Maria would have heard him out. I think they would have
Right.
acted as a well-functioning alliance, but he didn't seem to ever disagree with them, so they just marched forward.
And to be fair, I think
Yeah.
I think some of what we would be able to see Ben accomplish could be different under different circumstances. I think Ben is such an odd case in the sense that I do actually see some potential in him, again, to go far. Let's say he came back in another season. I think the biggest thing holding him back was anxiety and the panic attacks he was having, which he doesn't have any control over. And he had mentioned that he's only getting 2 hours of sleep like every night. And you consider how long they've been on the island, that puts him at a massive disadvantage. Like, imagine getting such little sleep, like your brain is not functioning at 100%. Like the fact that he's able to be up, be smiling, you know, just hold a proper conversation. He's not completely out of it. Like that speaks volumes. The fact that he's even able to compete at some level, like in that sort of state, is pretty mind boggling. Like it's just that's how I viewed things. In that, like once we saw him, you know, have those panic attacks, like it was a recurring thing. They kept showing it over and over again through multiple nights. And you got to understand that like he's now dealing with very little sleep, and that just it's just not a good position to be in. The fact that he even got to the end was just baffling.
Yeah, for sure. Now, granted, at the end of the day, like that doesn't earn my vote. Like I don't give
No,
you
it shouldn't.
extra
It shouldn't.
credit, but if he had like driven any vote before that, then I'd be like, ooh, he did that in spite of like being disadvantaged by his situation. But since he didn't, it just kind of is what it is. You know, it because it's a small jury, like 8 people, we did kind of gloss over the fact that a 5-3 vote is as close as it can be. So like we've seen a couple close, like very close votes in our watching. So I remember definitely not only rooting for Charlie, but I believed he was going to win. I watched Final Tribal, and I still felt, I was like, okay, Kenzie and Charlie both had good Final Tribals. So I think I'm still, they're probably still going to pick Charlie. And in my head, I also was like, probably Maria will vote for Charlie. Kenzie ultimately didn't. I mean, kind of betrayed. Well, she tried to betray her ally Tiffany, and then Q might hold that against her. So I thought it was gonna be Charlie, but I don't think it's a ridiculous vote to vote for Kenzie. There are some seasons where the person that gets votes and the most votes seems ludicrous. So this isn't that. In their position, I still would have voted for Charlie. I think he
Yeah,
was
it's fair.
involved in more of the decision making throughout the full season compared to Kenzie. He did, but you know what hurts him, in my opinion, is despite what we praised earlier in the season, which is having some restraint on betraying your own ally, and he kind of waited as long as you can. And we've criticized some other people for jumping the gun on that. But maybe he waited too long because
Right.
he betrays Maria, but he can't actually get Maria out because she was immune to that tribal. So he has to get out Q. And yes, that is effectively betraying Maria, but the thing is, everyone has been wanting Q out anyway, so there's not as much oomph to that move. And then the next tribal, so that's Final 5, Maria is the obvious number one threat. Everyone votes for her. And they even kind of the show does also make it's like a celebration of Maria. She's going out too. Like it doesn't have the spectacle of a betrayal big move in so much
It,
as like a hero's
it
farewell type of thing.
yeah, it comes across more as the path of least resistance whenever he needs to cut her rather than trying to figure out strategically, even if it becomes the harder road, to make that move sooner.
And it's weird because I think, do you agree it was the right decision to vote out Maria at the Final 5 for Charlie?
I thought I thought she should have been voted out. I thought both her and Q should have been voted out sooner. I think, yes, like she had she made it to the Final 4, and with how competitive she's been, with the challenges she's been winning, she would have been the leading vote getter most likely.
I agree. So it's not a mistake for Charlie to target and vote her out at the Final 5, and yet it doesn't help him because it's almost too obvious now. Like, I don't know that he gets the same kind of credit that you associate with, like, oh, what a move, taking out the best player in the game, blindside, like betraying your ally. And I guess part of it is it wasn't a blindside. Like, Maria knows she's going to be a target too, but it would have been hard to fool her. Like, I don't know if there's any way to like trick her that's not going to be you. So I guess that,
Right.
but then on the other hand, it's not like Kenzie has no big moment at the end either. So, but it's interesting. I think at least for Charlie's, I think that ends up hurting him. And then what we talked about, they didn't seem to like his answer about not needing to put himself in fire. Also, he didn't do the fire challenge, whereas Kenzie did. Maria claims that she, like I said, like just loved the drive and the fire of her eyes, which is like literally at fire making. So since Kenzie's in that and Charlie's not, then it does seem like that was taken into account for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, I don't we way back on this podcast, we came up with a fun idea of what to do at Final Four, and I think one of our favorite ones was it's still fire making, but it's everybody except for like you. If you win the challenge, then either if you have immunity, then it's the other three doing fire, and then the first two to do it make it, or just literally all four of them then are in fire. One of those things. That way you avoid like taking somebody, because sometimes you get taken to the end. It's like, oh, he didn't even earn it. He got taken to the end. Like that could
Mhm.
hurt you, even though like I didn't ask to be taken. Now Charlie did ask to be taken, but I just mean in general. Because I think he's like, yeah, I would. I don't mind not doing it. You could take me. Um,
Took the
but yeah,
easy
I
road
think
out.
that's took the easy road. That kind of and that kind of hurts him. A last thing I have for final tribal. I don't like the what are you gonna do with the money question. I don't
It's
like
odd.
it things
Yeah,
being held against you just for like what your life has been. And
agreed.
I guess
I
yep. Yeah.
it's I mean, it's personal. Like whatever reasons they have, they like it's obvious everyone's competing for the money, and like some people will disclose it early on, right? Like in their own cuts and say like, "Oh, I'm doing this for such and such or my sister, my brother, whatever, my family." And whatever their reasons are, at the end of the day, they're here, they're competing. They've been through this for 30 plus, 20 plus days. It it should not affect your vote like at this stage of the game why they're in this challenge. Like they've been through hell and back, and like I agree. I don't think you should dock any points just because you don't like someone's answer to that. That just feels weird.
Yeah, I'm almost to the point I wish it would be there'd be a rule against that question being asked. Because every now and then it comes up. Doesn't come up it actually usually doesn't come up, but every now and then it pops up at one of these final tribals. And that's just like it just feels like outside the game stuff. I am conflicted though, because for ages, for decades, people have said, "Oh, this person is a mom with kids, so likable. We can't let her get to the end because of course people are going to give her the money. Like that's such a great story." That is also taking things from outside the game. So if that's allowed, and why wouldn't this be allowed? So it's a bit of a
Hmm.
double standard, I guess, but I just don't like it.
I
One
don't either.
asterisk
I feel
though,
like,
my
yeah.
asterisk is if you bring it up yourself, it's fair game. So pro tip, do not brag about being rich right before a decision of who's going to go to the end. Cough, cough, Liz. Cough, cough. Uh,
Are you surprised at this point though? I feel like she's been kind of just glossing that point like from the beginning. Like that was
from
like
the
one of the
beginning.
earliest memories I had of Liz. That like, oh, I don't even need the money. It's like, okay, then why are you here? Like,
Yeah,
right?
no, I don't mind being here for the thrill of the game, and she watches the show with her daughter all the time, so that's fine. But if you intend to win, why say that? Horrible, horrible move. Unless
Well,
I
I mean, it
guess
just
I don't know. Like I
it,
guess if it's a horrible move that's gonna guarantee you're not gonna win, maybe it makes someone want to take you. So that could be like a 4D chess move to get to the end.
I don't know. I feel like that's such an odd mentality, and it just keep it to yourself. Like you don't need to disclose that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
and I
what is
feel like
someone
that's the
going to
type of
say?
thing you
Is someone
say
supposed to be like
after you
impressed by, oh, this
lose.
person does not need the money? Most people would be like, okay, and but I think
Yeah, maybe.
overall, like with how the rest
Um,
of the final tribal went,
yeah, I don't know. That
like I said,
Liz is
like
the enigma.
it's this is one of the few final tribals
We'll
that
talk
had
about
me
Liz in a
sway my
second.
vote and think about things a little bit differently heading
So
in than I did
let's
towards the
go.
end, and I'll give it some credit for that and how they wrap things up. So all in all, for me, it's been a season where, like I said, it's had some ups and downs, mostly downs for me due to the chaos, but I did like how they wrapped everything up. And it was a very surprising final three, and that's always a positive. The three that you don't expect to make it, and just because it makes it hard for you to then figure out who's going to win, right? Like this is you kind of have to take Ben out of the equation here. He doesn't really have much going for him, but it becomes a toss up either one way or another, and that's a way to keep you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, and it's surprising when when more than one person has a chance at the end, you might get surprised. Like for me, even after Final Tribal, I expected Charlie to win, and when he didn't, I was like, "Whoa!" Like it was a surprise. So it is fun when that happens, and then you have to like start thinking about like, are you okay with it or not? But so let's dig into what happened in the episode. So at the beginning of the finale, final five. This is the aftermath of the Q vote, where it's clear that people went against Maria, and also clear that Maria went against Charlie because she voted for him. So Maria does the only thing she really can do and tries to come up with the story to Charlie of why this happened. And I think she says, like, oh, everybody forced me to. They tricked me. I still want to work with you. Charlie doesn't buy it, but also doesn't burn the bridge. Is like, okay, of course. Like, yeah, we could potentially work together. I have no hard feelings. So I think this is right on both ends. This is what Maria should do, and this is how Charlie should respond.
Yeah, it's all you can do in that situation. So puts us in a position to try to figure out, okay, like what is ultimately the focus here for Maria? It becomes, I need to win this next challenge no matter what, or I am out of here. And then for Charlie, it becomes, I might still have a shield in Maria, so like I can afford to not burn this bridge. Things will get interesting, obviously, if she ends up winning the immunity challenge. But if she doesn't, then there's no reason not to vote her out, and then I still have additional options I can work with.
Also, jury management, not the worst idea. Just don't burn bridges. So the immunity challenge and reward challenge is called Fifth Element. And there's a obstacle course where you got to go crawl through a net, climb a tower to where the puzzle is. But that puzzle requires you to, I guess you're not like solving things, but you're just trying to, there's accounts of different objects that are gonna help you figure out a combination lock type of thing. So one of them is the number of puzzle pieces, the amount of geckos on the puzzle, and the number of holes in a plank that they need to use in the obstacle course. And it looks like Maria is a threat to win. She's there. Kenzie also threat to win there, but doesn't have her plank. She doesn't remember the plank. She now has like no chance unless she runs all the way back to get that count of like the holes in there. And what precedes is wild. Liz, who could win, I mean, she's there's a chance, decides to abandon any hope of herself winning and run all the way back, climb down the tower, go back onto the course, get Kenzie's plank to count the number of holes and assist her. And it works, and Kenzie wins immunity. I don't know that we've seen anything like this.
No, not at all. It's I don't even know how to describe it. In a sense, it's unpredictable, which is kind of cool. Not what would have expected from Liz of all people. But it's, I guess, a way for her. She's thinking two steps ahead, so it's a way for her to think about, solidifying that vote to get to make sure that Maria gets eliminated. And in that sense, it makes for a very smart strategy, kind of ganging up on her as a 2v1.
It does, right? Like, if your number one priority is vote out Maria, then you'll do anything it takes to get her out, and then the risk is you're not winning yourself, so you have to be confident that you're not going to be a target if you're going to use this strategy. There's also the threat
High
that
risk, high
Jeff
reward.
will tell you it's not allowed. Yeah, so that could. I'd also say that Liz, if she's at the end, you may be forfeiting any chance of Maria voting for you if you do this. You would think that Maria will not be pleased to have you just collude with Kenzie to take you down.
I don't think that's a concern for Liz. She feels she's a dominant enough player that she can afford to lose a vote or two and still win the game.
She's like, yeah, I was gonna get a 8-0 win. I'll take a 7-1 win. It's fine. That's probably how she
Pretty
feels. I did feel like this shouldn't have been allowed though. Just thinking of like the things we've seen. So what definitely is allowed is you can like look to your left, look to your right to like look at people's puzzles. We've seen that a lot. In season 49, we've seen Rizzo put hands on somebody else's puzzle when they're like in that first challenge of the season. So you can touch other people's stuff. So that's allowed. But Liz runs backwards on the course and grabs a piece from a different competitor's like lane. Doesn't that mean like you could have done that from the start? What if I like grab Maria's thing and just like toss it into the woods? Like, could I have done that?
Yeah,
Like,
it
I don't like.
opens up a discussion you do not want to be having.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I didn't like that just that extra part of interfering with somebody else's stuff felt weird. So I didn't really like that, and I don't. Other than that, I like in terms of rules, I didn't have a problem with it. I don't like the idea of it on paper because like what if it's like when in sports when you get worried about gambling, like the doomsday scenario where it turns out people are throwing games for bets and then everything spirals out of control and you can't trust the legitimacy of any sports game. Um like you wouldn't want to think that people aren't trying to win every challenge. Like you want to go into every challenge expecting everyone to try to win.
Yeah. No, it's it's about honor in the game and a form of good sportsmanship. I think for Maria, it's the takeaway did end up becoming that it took two people to take me down, but it's like in a game where you're trying to play fair and everyone for themselves, like that should not be allowed. You shouldn't be put at a disadvantage because two people mid challenge decided to go against you.
Yeah, maybe the middle ground is just don't like these last couple challenges shouldn't be the types where that's possible. So maybe like there are challenges where you can do it, but it's like final 8, final 7. Cuz then if you do it at final 8, even in the best case scenario, you've kind of like made a spectacle of yourself and maybe you risk people not respecting you for it and then you have to deal with that for like 4 more votes. Whereas here, it's really only this vote you have to deal with, and it's probably almost certainly gonna be Maria because she is the biggest threat. And after that, worst case scenario, it's fire making. Like think about the final whatchamacallit, like the next not the next episode, but the next challenge, the final 4 challenge. It would have been way harder to double up against someone in that challenge because the best you can do is like look over and suggest like maybe like this is how you do it. And honestly, like I think the two heads will be worse than one in that case. Like it would just be confusing two people trying to do the same puzzle.
Right.
Um, or like Motion, the one where like the balls are rolling and you have to catch it and put it back in the track, and you keep adding balls. In that case, you just can't do it because everyone has their own thing. So maybe that's what you do. You can do things like this. It's not against the rules, but we will engineer it so that the challenges at the end of the game are not ones where that's possible. So I think I'd be
I
fine with that.
I feel like just put a rule that you just can't do it. That would be the simplest option, right? Because otherwise, you're going to have to then think twice as hard about how you're making some of these games, right? And if there's more criteria to how a game should work, I'm concerned that like we'll see less and less like games that are just enjoyable to watch, just because they've thought about each and every sequence of the game, so it's like engineered to have to follow a very specific path.
I just want but I do want as few rules as possible. Like I do want it to be simple. Like I don't have to explain to a new fan what you can and can't do. And right now in the present game, you can look at someone's puzzle. So I feel like
Mhm.
if you're gonna make it a rule that you can't work together, then you're gonna have to make a ruling on looking at other people's puzzles too, because that's like a similar way, and it's like a slippery slope. But on paper, I don't mind what you're saying. Like, just make it that two people can't work together if it's an individual challenge. I'm just worried about like the specific logistics of how you write up that rule. Um, but um,
Right.
that's all I had with this. Kenzie wins, and it's pretty much over for Maria. She does pitch Ben, which I guess the only interesting thing is she could have pitched Charlie. So I don't know if either one would have been more likely of success, but no one goes with it. Everybody knows that she's the biggest threat, and not just threat to win, but also a threat in challenges. So on both fronts, not good to keep her in the game, and they vote out Maria. Do you wish to see Maria again?
I'm afraid not. She doesn't. There's nothing that sticks out that should warrant her returning. Like she's been a good player, but it's I've just seen her as an above average player. There's a dime a dozen of them.
Okay, well, a dime a dozen might be a little harsh, but uh, I generally agree. But definitely, like in a season where most people made nonsensical moves, I think her moves made sense.
Well,
Like even
I
the ones
think
I
because
disagreed
of
with, I understand why she did.
that's true, but I feel like because of how chaotic this season has been and how many weird decisions there have been, they make certain people's plays stand out that much more. Like I feel like if this was like an average season with more competent players, and this is sounding very harsh, Maria might not even make it this far.
Maybe not, maybe not. You know, I'm optimistic she would rise to the level of competition though, because
I think
like
she is
it.
above. She's an above average player. Like I don't think she's like lacking. I think she has a good social game, good balance of things. Uh, it's just weird given how the season has went that I think there's opportunities that allowed her to keep moving on.
Yeah, I guess probably the biggest moment for her in terms of like butterfly effect is Tim, for unknown reasons, deciding that Maria is going to be his plus one in a plus one alliance, even though like they weren't actually an alliance, and then also not telling her for some reason, which ends up getting Tim voted out, and they need to replace Tim, so they naturally replaced Tim with Charlie. So now both of them are in the majority alliance, which instantly failed, but at least in theory they were on top. That probably helped a lot, because if not, then there's a chance that they're on the outs. Charlie and Maria are on the outs for longer, and then things could potentially go differently. So that's probably the biggest thing that was outside her control that went positively. Everything
Right.
else, was her decisions. A big decision was at the beginning where she could have voted out. It was either Ben or Tim with the rest of Charlie's Angels. She could have voted with Jem and Mariah, but ultimately chooses to vote with Charlie instead. If she had not done that, then it would have been completely different because then her alliance just looks different and it would have been interesting. But um, I did like Maria. I don't have her on the list of someone like I specifically want to see again, but I like her. So now, final four. So final four, it's a little harder to parse out. I mean, it's definitely Charlie or Kenzie, but at least for me, I was like, well, Charlie was part of the decision-making alliances over time and just got out Maria, so that's why I thought he was leading. At that point, the final four immunity challenge was called Plinko Puzzle, which makes sense because it was basically a gigantic Plinko board, and you roll a ball up the ramp, very tall, which gets to the top of the board, and then it goes down the track, bouncing off all the little posts. So at some point, it's going to get to the bottom. You are supposed to catch it and then put it back up the ramp. Now, in the meantime, what you're doing is you're making a puzzle, but the puzzle, your back's going to be towards this giant structure while you're doing the puzzle. So it's up to you to decide at what point you go back to go catch your ball as it slowly makes its way down. And if you fail to catch it on its way down, then you're going to have to wait for it to go down a super slow track for you to get it again and then throw it up there. And all that time, you're not working on your puzzle while everyone else is. This is the first time this challenge existed at all. So what did you think of it?
I liked it. I think it puts tension. It puts strategic thinking, all of that into play together, and puts you in a moment where you're trying to make a mad dash to complete this puzzle as quickly as you can. And you're at the finish line. It feels like this is a challenge that just kind of puts your wits to the test and has you try to react as quickly as possible while like trying to balance two things at once. So I like the challenge. It was fun to follow.
I instantly fact checked myself. It turns out it actually did appear before, but it was a tribe challenge. So like your tribe is basically doing everything the individual people do. So forgot about that, and it looks like it also appeared one other time. So I was wrong. That's fine, but still only like 3 times ever. In
Gotcha.
U.S. Survivor. I did like it actually. I don't think you may not have voted on this one, but one of the season 50 in the hands of the fans votes was for what the final 4 challenge would be, and this was one of the options that you could have picked. So we'll be
I
curious to
see.
find out what people, if they pick, because you could pick this, Emotion was one of them, and then there's a third one, which I don't remember right now. But I did like it. I do see it get it. I mean, just like Emotion, it probably would get old if it happened every single time, but I would be perfectly happy of it being in the rotation of things that are the final 4 challenge.
Agreed.
And it's surprisingly Ben, like you mentioned, that actually wins this challenge. So good for Ben. And he ends up having to. Well, I think actually Liz even has a conversation with Ben too, which is when we're laughing at her for just saying she doesn't need the money, basically. And now Ben has decided he doesn't want to see Liz at the finals. So, which bad. If you're trying to win Ben, you should want that type of person at the end. But regardless, now he's trying to decide who to put with Liz in fire making. He has to choose between 2 people that he's very close to and are very close to him. So either way, you are hurting somebody. I think it probably would have turned out that Charlie would have held it against him less than Kenzie would have held it against him. Um,
Yeah.
won't matter because Teal gets 0 votes regardless, but it could have mattered potentially. Like if Kenzie did get voted out and then doesn't vote for him, maybe that could have been the difference or something. Um,
I think, yeah, it's a vote where he had to think about it long and hard. And I think you're right. Strategically, it made most sense to pit Kenzie and Charlie against each other. But honestly, I would say it makes the most sense, like for his personal game, to pit himself against Charlie. But that's me expecting Ben to not be Ben, like the way that he's played the whole time, and he's been like more of an emotional player, as I was saying, as opposed to a strategic player. I was not surprised that he ended up taking Charlie. Like that's what I would have guessed he would have done. So I was not surprised by the end result, but it was just one of those things that like he had an opportunity to at least better his own standing there, and it was just not an approach he took.
yeah. Anything stand out during fire making?
This is a pretty clean win for Kenzie.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think was there a moment where I forget if this was during the challenge or just in the prep where someone made a comment to Kenzie, like to like this is how you do it. And Liz is like she knows how she does it, or something like that.
Yeah.
But not really. Nothing I think that super stood out. Other than like we talked about before, like Kenzie's performance does seem to affect people on the jury of winning. So good
Indeed.
for Kenzie. Do you wish to see Liz again?
No.
Yeah, I don't need to see Liz anymore. I will point out there is a timeline where Liz presents herself differently because of her Applebee's rant. She could have twisted that into something different where like this has been not just my dream but my daughter's dream. Like imagine the what what could happen if we win, what a story. I think there was something there, but she probably had done too much damage to her own game like throughout the whole season.
Oh man,
But
I just thought of like the coldest response Jeff could have gave once she got eliminated, like based on what you just said. Jeff could have been like, "Oh, we'll have your daughter sign up for Survivor then."
go. You know, we'll keep an eye on that. Maybe like in 10 years we'll see. uh it could happen. Like an all child of Survivor season. Like all their
Yes, indeed.
all like former players' children. That could be honestly probably be a disaster actually.
Johnny
But you never
Fairplay
know.
Jr.
Johnny Fairplay Jr., JFJ. Um so, for the final 3, do you wish to see Ben again?
I like Ben. He seems like a cool dude to just hang out with, have a good time with, but he's lacking a lot as a Survivor player, so no. Kenzie, I don't think there's any facet of her game that interests me beyond what she's shown. Like, I think she has been a deserved winner. I think of the 3, if I was forced to choose one, I would say Charlie. I think Charlie has things that he can shore up. Like he has it in him to play a better game, but like ultimately I wouldn't care if any one of them returned. I would probably say no to all 3, but if I was forced to pick one, I'd say Charlie has me the most intrigued.
Okay. And you're not forced to stick anyone, so you can say no to everybody. Um
Yeah, that would be
I
my initial response.
in the moment, I definitely wanted to see Charlie again. I think as time has passed, um that desire has lessened a bit, because I'm just a little worried that the critics are right about him, and without Maria, he would not have shined as much. But I'm hopeful. Like when he explained his intentions throughout the season, and then especially at the end when he was targeting Maria, I think he articulated everything very well, explained everything. I was confident he had a plan. So I would hope he'd be able to adapt to whatever his new situation is. But I do acknowledge that after the very beginning of the game, once Maria chooses to be on his side versus Mariah and Jem's side, they were very few situations that Charlie had to dig himself out of a hole. Because the only time was there was a weird immunity challenge, split immunity challenge after the merge, where the tribe got split in half, and then on his half, I think Maria was immune, and then he was the only Sega that could get votes. But luckily for him, that's when like Soda and Venus and Tevin all like targeted each other, so he was safe then.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously when he was being targeted by Maria at the end of the game, he potentially could have got voted out. So credit to him then. But we need to find out who, if anyone, actually is returning. So for this, I have arranged for our beloved co-host, Ange, to come in and join us briefly to just talk about this. So let's cut to that segment now. And with that, it's time to bring in the co-host that we have missed greatly during this adventure. Welcome to the pod, Ange.
Hello, hello.
Yes. We need. I needed you here. We needed you here because we need to reveal who from this chaotic season, if any, are coming back again.
Ooh, I'm so excited. I hope there's a lot of people in this season because I do like this one.
And by the way, like we've seen up and through season 49. So if I'm saying they're coming back again, the only applicable season is season 50. So yes, these are all people, if I name anybody, that are on season 50. And just to get yourself back in the mindset of what season 46 was, it was chaos, it was Banu, it was canceling Christmas and hide and seeks, it was Applebee's, it was Maria and Charlie. It was a wild ride.
You know, it would be a really big, like full circle moment for me if for some reason Banu ends up being one of the returnees, because I think that was like the very first conversation I've had with you both in terms of Survivor, even before we decided to get together for these podcasts. So as much as I would not want to be here for that sort of thing, that would be kind of a full circle moment for me.
Am I about to end F's time being on the show?
This is where I reveal I am secretly Banu.
Honestly, that would increase Banu's reputation greatly if that happened. But it's time. I'm here to tell you that yes, there is someone from season 46 that will be back. And that person is Charlie.
Oh my God, yes. I love that. Love him. My Swiftie.
The Swiftie,
honestly,
he was close.
Pretty good pick.
He was robbed. He was robbed. He was a great player.
Yeah, F and I, we hashed it out, but at the end of the day, clearly I think a formidable player, whatever you think of him.
Heck yeah.
But it's not just Charlie. For you see, another is returning. And that person is Tiffany from the Yanu tribe.
Oh, okay.
One of the many people that got blindsided with an idol in their pocket.
It happened one too many times in this season.
I'm not sure. Not sure how I feel about this one, but
and with Kenzie, was begged by Banu on hands and knees to stay in the game.
Yes.
So
Unfortunately, that
Charlie
didn't
and
work.
Tiffany. And one final person from the season. 3 people from the same
Oh,
season.
snap.
All right. 3 people
Yes.
from 3 different tribes, hopefully.
It is not from a different tribe. Sorry, Nami.
Oh.
Nobody from you gonna be here. The third and final person from season 46 will be Kentavious. Q has been invited back.
Bro, what?
Oh.
No.
What?
Okay, I'm not a fan of that one. I am not a fan of that one.
Wait, you don't like Q? Okay. I mean, I'm all right with it. I don't love it,
No.
but I think it's all right. I think there are worse returnees. I'm not gonna lie. I think.
It's not a one-to-one with a Johnny Fairplay kind of thing. Like, clearly I feel like I did like Johnny Fairplay less. It's just, to me, he's pretty polarizing. Like, and I'm on the wrong end of the spectrum here. I haven't been too much of a fan, but I can see why he would be like a popular pick.
I think he's funny. I love the hide and seek. I think that's one of my most favorite things in that season, and he's just funny. I just love how he thinks he knows someone more than they know themselves kind of thing. He's annoying, yeah, but it made it funny. He was a funny
This
TV
is,
during the hide and seek, you know?
I would agree with you on that. I think in terms of entertainment value, he's a good pick.
I mean, he'll be entertaining probably again, but if you're trying to feel like this is an all-star season, doesn't feel like Q was an all-star, so I do question
No.
this.
Yeah.
Although
Definitely not.
I suppose what you could say is, rather than 50's an all-star season, because it's not like it's titled season 50 all-stars. Maybe it's titled season 50 in hands of the fans, so maybe it's more about like, who do you remember most from a season, and then pick from that. And you definitely will remember Q from this season. And then since Tiffany ended,
Interesting.
once things finished, Tiffany hated Q, so having them both adds that little wrinkle too.
Ooh, that would be
But
some
yeah,
tea
there
on
you
there.
go. There you go. So, just like David versus Goliath, which also had 3 people, season 46, 3 people returning more than. In fact, yeah, those 2 seasons are the most of anybody like from the same season, which is just funny
I
how
think
that just worked out.
I do like it in the sense that while I wasn't too fond of the season overall, I feel like a fresh new perspective can be gained from new setting, new cast of contestants that they're competing against. So I very much look forward to seeing how the returning cast for season 46 will challenge with the new environment.
We shall see, and we got plenty of time to theorize how everyone's going to do. But all right, that was our reveal for who's on 50. Thanks, Ange, for dropping by. We'll let you go to your various activities.
All right, thanks for having me.
Fantastic.
Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, come back one day. And yeah, F and I, let's finish this up. And we're back. So we've now revealed the returnees for season 50.
Exciting.
Yeah, despite what we said about wanting to see people again, once you actually are seeing them again, I think we all can have open minds. Cause like, all right, you're here. Whether or not I wanted you here, why don't you prove me wrong? Let's see what you do. Let's see if you surprise me. So I'm open, ultimately open for all these people, even Q. I mean, we'll see. In a situation with completely different scenarios, plus everyone has watched this season, so they know Q now. Like, how will he act? I'm interested, so I want to see what happens.
Yeah, usually while I like to limit the amount of people I have returning for a season, if the entire premise of this is, in the fate of the fans, then in the hands of the fans, excuse me, then I would like to think that, yeah, a few years have passed. With age comes wisdom, yes, with age comes wisdom, and we're in a situation where Q thinks about things differently and handles things differently. We talked about Jonathan Penner, like back in one of the season 16 episodes, and talked about how.
Whoa, spoilers. That's in the future. They don't know
That's
that
in the
yet.
future. Okay. Cut that out. But we've had instances where we've seen returning fans who I probably did not have the most positive opinion of come back and kind of change things up. And honestly, when you get to see that in action, it does make you more open-minded about it. So I agree with your point. I think ultimately going into season 50, there is a lot to be excited about. And I'm not necessarily going to look at it in the sense that, oh, these aren't contestants that are returning that I like to follow. But, if there's an opportunity for them to come back, obviously, like, people like them, and it gives them an opportunity to potentially show us a different side. So that's always exciting.
Absolutely. And I was teasing. We announced we were watching season 15 and then season 16 in our season 49 finale. So they know. Um that we have begun recording those, so you guys will eventually see them coming soon. Last thoughts on 46 itself. You're at the end. Are you happy to have seen it? Could you have done without it? Where's your head at now that it's over?
If I'm being brutally honest, I feel like I could have done without this season, which I would probably think is a hot take. I know that there's probably some characters in this season that a lot of people would really like to follow their stories or even follow the aftermath of what happened after they were on Survivor. So there have been some interesting characters. I just feel like this season left me wanting more. It did wrap up in a better way than parts of the beginning and the entire midpoint, but I felt like it was lacking in some areas for me.
The question is, in the middle of the season, you told us and the audience that it was projecting to be last place in the seasons you've watched. Did it crawl itself out of the cellar, or is it last place?
I'd probably still place it last. I think it did. The ending did what it could, but ultimately it's a season that I felt like the other seasons preceding it that we've watched, they were just more interesting for me to follow. This was one of those seasons where had it not happened, had I not watched it, I didn't have as much enthusiasm following it as I did the other seasons.
Totally fair. Totally fair. I think there's a lot of differing opinions on this season. There's even like I said, there's differing opinions even on the winner for those that were interested in it, disagreeing between Kenzie and Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can't give you winners all the time. Like I can't give you the greatest seasons ever. We gotta mix it in.
We got to
I'm
throw
not,
the junk
yeah.
in there with the diamonds in the rough.
the junk.
Yes.
For the record, it doesn't. Out of my 49 season knowledge, it's definitely. I don't think it's not bottom tier for me. Um, I was able to be entertained enough that if the tiers were like A, B, C, D, then it's actually in B. Just for the spectacle of so many weird things happening. And I think for me, it's just when all the seasons start feeling the same, things that are different grab my attention. So that's probably
Yeah, that's fair.
my perspective. But all right, well done. You made it. And now that you've cleared this, we can join Ange next time on Island Life as we begin season 15, China. Dun dun dun. We'll see what we all think of that season. Any final words?
Hope everyone's enjoying the listen, and once again, have a happy New Year, everyone.
Well, I mean, it's been a week though. Are we still wishing people Happy New Year?
Oh, they don't know that. This is are we not recording January 1st?
You want
we
me to
travel
release
we
this
travel in
episode
time.
the past?
we do a lot of time travel, folks. We're
Honestly, we do.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, let me rephrase that. Just have a great start to your 2026 heading into season 50.
I can get
Good
behind
vibes all around.
Good vibe. Actually, I would kind of want bad vibes. Like bad vibe tribes are more interesting than good vibe tribes, I think. So
I mean, good vibes for
here's
like the viewers and for us.
now we had bad vibes also make life interesting. So here's to bad vibes.
Okay, well,
This
you
is
can
my hot take.
keep that. I'll hold on to my good vibes.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Island Life podcast. Until next time, ciao.